Welcome to Wise Guys.
Today's topic, Syria.
The 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit has just landed and is fighting in Syria. All right, this is actually huge news.
We're talking U.S. troops, Marines, are now on the ground engaging in Syria in a open-ended engagement. And honestly, I mean, West, I don't know if you've seen this somewhere, but I have heard almost no real, analysis or attention given to this topic. And it's a big deal. It's only 2 weeks old now, right? A week old?
Yeah, I just can't believe that this isn't getting more in the news.
Press coverage, media attention.
Or even our Republicans or Democrats saying pretty much anything.
Yeah.
Right now we have American troops uniformed, acknowledged in Syria, which they hadn't been before. And this has the possibility to expand dramatically.
And I mean, interestingly enough, on the lack of media attention, I guess, is President Trump does a really, really normal thing during a transition process and gets rid of a lot of the former U.S. attorneys who were appointed by President Obama. Right. Democrats everywhere take it as a really big deal and really focus on it. He engages us on the ground in Syria, and suddenly no one's talking about it.
I think if you're Democratic leadership, a much better attack than to say that the guard is changing with your attorneys in the executive branch is saying, look, Trump is opening up a new front in the war on terror here.
Quite literally.
Engaging us in another country in different circumstances with troops that are acknowledged. And I just don't see how they don't go after that. Now, this might have been a part of an Obama administration planning effort.
Very possible, yeah.
This might be more continuation. This might be more continuity.
I'm thinking that considering how quickly Mattis has okayed this and this is being rolled out, there must have been some planning beforehand in place. Right. It would be crazy if this was so quickly planned and executed. But nonetheless, it's happening. Other people aren't really talking about it, but we definitely should. Tell us more about exactly what this engagement is, Wes. Right. Who's in and what are they doing?
So the tricky part when we're talking about was this planned or not, the tricky part is the actual forces are the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, or MEU, 11th MEU. Now, these are Marine Corps forces that are aboard ships, and they go on float, and they go around the world, and they're always ready. So if something happens, if the president needs military forces somewhere, the Marines will always be ready to move. Now, we don't know, because this could have been, the MEU is always there. It's the 11th MEU happened to be floating around. So that was either just task organized right then, hey, we're going to do this, or this was part of a more long-term thing, and 11th MEU got ready under Obama and really has been launched under Trump.
Okay, so I mean, either way, we don't necessarily know how that planning went, but they're there now.
They're there now, and what the forces actually on the ground are M777 or howitzers or 777s. They're really lightweight, and they're really fires. So they're providing artillery strikes to forces fighting ISIS in Syria.
Now, these fire types aren't necessarily the ones that are close combat engagement, but they need someone to protect them, I imagine. Would that be close combat?
Right. So there's an interesting distinction here is that these are ground forces, but they are not infantry or tanks.
Okay.
Or they're not close combat forces. They're fires. So they're supporting mostly rebels or Kurds that are fighting ISIS near Raqqa in Syria. But that's a very thin distinction. I mean, we have to have howitzers and have the 11th Marines 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit able to operate. You need a base, you need supplies, you need ammunition, you need intelligence, you need people to guard them, you need close combat troops to guard these guys.
So this is a full frontal operation. Everyone's involved now.
Right. This is a full footprint, I would say.
Okay, footprint. All right.
Right.
So what we're talking here is that they're now engaged, and what they're there to do is kind of help with the assault on ISIS HQ, their headquarters in the city of Raqqa. Mm-hmm. It's a city that I think has been a main source of focus and seems complementary to the siege that's been happening in Mosul as well. But Raqqa itself is really interesting in my mind because it's in the northeastern, I believe, part of Iraq, which is very, very close to Kurdish territory.
Correct.
And I think that's particularly interesting because I think us going in here, the biggest winner is absolutely the Kurds. in my mind. The biggest loser in my mind is also ISIS. But the biggest winner is the Kurds. And it's going to be really interesting to see how they take our involvement, our direct involvement, and also how we interact with the Syrian/Russian, I guess,
Right.
organization in the ground there.
Right, you're getting a really messy situation. So we're trying to get to Raqqa, where we have the Kurds are fighting near there. We're supporting them. They also have ISIS in Raqqa. They're on the outs. I mean, we just gotta mop them up. Really, they're retreating. But we also have the Syrians with probably their Russian advisors closing in on Raqqa as well. So I kind of interpret this as a quick inject of firepower to be able to have people more closely allied with us to take Raqqa before the Syrians do.
So I guess the question that it's really important to focus on here is exactly what the long-term policy objective for this kind of engagement really is. Because we don't have
Right.
a date that we know they're getting out. And these are now American troops in uniform. If a squadron is killed or anything like that, these are American troops directly engaging and directly potentially dying for this fight, right? And this policy objective that President Trump is going for could be really long-term. It could
We don't
mean,
know.
right, we have no idea. It could be really long-term, and it might be an injection of firepower, like you said. I also think it's possible that they move forward with the assault, and this is only, Raqqa is only step one.
Right. I can't stress enough that I think a political objective has to be outlined.
Yeah.
I'm sure the combatant commander, the military, the U.S. military guy for the region, I'm sure there are military objectives that are more short-term in nature, but we have to state what the political objective is.
Why are we inside? Like, why did we really decide to
Right.
engage? And crazily enough, I mean, there's no pressure on Republican leadership or President Trump to do so
that.
because no one is talking about this.
Right.
Right? Like, the Democrats aren't forcing him to say exactly what the plan is.
Right. Under the original invasion of Iraq in 2003, the objective was to liberate Iraq. Even if you go back to Vietnam, the objective was to ensure the independent survival of the Republic of South Vietnam.
Sure.
So, I mean, it wasn't necessarily an aggressive objective in Vietnam, but you had a political objective.
Right.
Matched to political ends.
And I
to
mean-
use military means.
We knew under the Obama administration the political objective from almost day one, right? Withdrawing troops
Right.
and bringing the war on terror effectively to a close, at least in its theater in Afghanistan, was outlined on day one, right? President Trump has been very vague about how he
Right.
plans on going to the war on terror, though he has explicitly told us he wants to wipe out ISIS.
ISIS, right.
And wiping out ISIS is
That's
not,
not a political objective.
it's not a political objective. It's not a one and done either.
I mean, it might be a good objective, but it's what is the political objective? What is
Right.
the end state of Syria? What
Right.
is Syria, and what does Iraq look like?
What are we doing about the Kurds? Are we helping them become
Right.
their own
That's
independent,
part of
autonomous
Iraq.
region, right? Like a part of Iraq or what?
We need to figure out what Syria and Iraq should look like at the end. And once we can work backwards from there and then apply military means to be able to get there.
So I think, in summation, this is incredibly important and something that people need to be thinking about and looking into, is the fact that we are now engaged on the ground in Syria. The Marines are there, hundreds of them, and this is an open-ended engagement. We don't know what the long-term or short-term goals really are outside of the military plans. And we definitely don't know what the impact will be for the region decades down the line. But at this point, I'm waiting to hear something from President Trump in the White House defining exactly what the plan is here.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely critical. Not for nothing, let's say we have casualties, even if it's an accident, and then you have Americans killed on the ground.
That, I imagine...
That forces a decision point.
Right, and I hope, at least at that point, though obviously ideally that point isn't coming anytime soon, but when that happens, I'm hoping we'll receive a lot more attention than this has right now.
Right.
As always, thanks for watching. We're the Wise Guys, and please feel free to leave us any comments, questions, concerns, or things that you think we ought to consider in our email, and connect with us on Twitter.